Hey everybody, it's Matt here from East Coast Lodge. Making a video for you guys today in the mood of Remembrance Day, because, it's Remembrance Day and I think everybody should be thinking about the soldiers that fight for them and the brave men that put their lives on the line to fight for our freedom and make it so we can have the lives that we have. Um, this just gonna be kind of like an abbreviated story of like the 10 most badass soldiers that I could think of, just at the time. It's opinionated, so if I don't get the your favorite war hero of all time, please don't be offended. These are just 10 of the most badass guys I could think of at the time. All of them are really badass, and all their stories are really awesome. And I think that you'll like it. So without further ado, let's just get into these guys. All right. The first soldier on our list today is a man by the name of Henry Lincoln Johnson. Although he was only a private in World War I, Henry did something badass enough to get him one of the coolest nicknames I've ever heard, the Black Death. Here's the story of how he got that name. One night in 1918, he and one of his squad mates, Henry considered to be a close friend, were attacked by a German raiding party. His friend was almost immediately injured with shrapnel from an explosion. While Henry was fighting off the raiding party, he suffered serious wounds like being shot, stabbed, and beat on his head and face and arms and his torso. Although this never stopped him from returning fire. Even when his gun jammed, he would use his gun as a club, beating his enemies away. The Germans would eventually try and capture his friend and take him as a prisoner. Henry was not about to let that happen, though. He would then take out his knife and hack and slash at the German raiding party, fighting them off for over an hour by himself until reinforcements arrived. At that point, he collapsed. Right after the war, he was given the Croix de Guerre in France, as well as a victory parade thrown for him in New York City. Eventually, long after his death, he would receive a Purple Heart in the year of 1929. The second soldier on our list today is a very interesting one from World War I. He is a First Nation soldier by the name of Francis Paycompagavu. Sorry if I butchered that name. He is also known as the deadliest sniper of World War I. He is officially credited as the most efficient and effective marksman of the First World War. He has at least 378 confirmed kills, as well as more than 300 captures. On top of that, he was a part of the battles of Somme and Passchendaele. He was awarded the Military Medal, 2 bars, the 1914-15 Star, the British War Medal, and the Victory Medal. In his later life, he served as the chief of his tribe. I won't give you all the details about this guy because we have a deep dive video on him, and if you want to know more about him, check out our channel. This guy's just a true badass, and I think you'll like our video. Soldier number 3 on the list definitely deserves the title Badass, Michael John Fitzmaurice. He is the survivor of one of the most heroic acts you've ever seen in your favorite war movie. Except he did it in real life. Defying all logic, this man jumped onto a live grenade to save squad mates after having thrown 2 out of the bunker just previous. The grenade he jumped on exploded, leaving him partially blind and deaf. That didn't stop him from running out of the cover he was in, shooting at the enemy until yet again another grenade was thrown at him, destroying the rifle he was using. After all of that, he still manages to kill an enemy soldier who was rushing in at him and his squad with his bare hands. This guy was truly an amazing soldier, and truly a badass man. Soldier number 4. You may have heard of this soldier from the popular movie Hacksaw Ridge. His name? Desmond Dobbs, and he was truly an amazing hero and a very unique kind of badass. Desmond Dobbs was a U.S. Army medic in World War II, fighting in Guam and the Philippines, as well as the historically famous Battle of Okinawa on Hacksaw Ridge. Desmond was a Seventh-day Adventist, and because of his beliefs during his service, he refused to bear arms or any weapon against the enemy. Instead, he focused solely on helping wounded as a medic and saving lives.
Completely fearless, Desmond ran onto the front lines countless amount of times, saving between 50 to 100 Allied wounded soldiers, as well as some enemy wounded, all on Hacksaw Ridge, because he saw the value in every single life. Desmond would eventually be shot in the arm by a sniper round and suffer many pieces of shrapnel to his abdomen by a failed attempt to kick away a grenade. Allied soldiers were able to carry him back behind Allied lines, where he was saved and eventually awarded the Medal of Honor, as well as having received 2 Bronze Star medals previous. The 5th soldier you may also know from a popular movie. His story was depicted in the film The Outpost. His name, Ty Carter. Carter originally signed up in 1998 as a part of the U.S. Marine Corps. He served in Japan as an intelligence clerk before being honorably discharged by the Marines in 2002. After this and some years of military time off, Ty opted to join the U.S. Army. In 2010, he was stationed in Afghanistan at a combat outpost in Kamdesh, where his heroic actions would earn him a Medal of Honor. Carter was in charge of carrying ammunition through a 100-meter opening while 300 enemy insurgents were opening fire and closing in on the base. He then had to make this run again and again to deliver gun oil and more ammo, and then a third time after that. He proceeded to countlessly put himself in line of enemy fire while providing sufficient and accurate fire to hold back enemies. He was also responsible for getting the radio that eventually got the reinforcements they needed. The 6th soldier on our list today is Benjamin F. Wilson. He was already known as a World War II veteran when he enlisted in the Korean War. He had to take a demotion from lieutenant to private just to do so, but he quickly rose back up through the ranks. In 1951, he was put in charge of protecting a place that they called Hell Hill, and he knew that an attack was coming. But he remained with his men, and he took a bullet to the leg. That didn't stop him. He went on a one-man charge to kill 7 and wound 2 Chinese soldiers alone. His men tried to take him for medical treatment, but when his stretcher was put down, he got up and limped back up onto the hill. Just as everyone else was retreating, he charged alone with his rifle, killing 3 enemies. They took his rifle, so he killed 4 more with an entrenching shovel. The Chinese retreated. The next day, Wilson went on a one-man assault again to take down 33 more enemy soldiers despite his existing wounds. Soldier number 7 on the list was a U.S. Army officer. He was also named most decorated soldier in U.S. history in 1989. So, I'm sure you guessed this is going to be a good one. He was actually called the Ghost by German soldiers in World War II because he seemed to come back no matter what. They would throw everything at him. In one skirmish, he blew up 2 tanks with a bazooka before being hit in the leg, but then carried on fighting until he was hit again. The next day, they evacuated him to an English hospital, but he broke out to hitchhike to Normandy and rejoin his men. He was so badly injured he needed a cane to walk, but he took up an exposed machine gun position anyway to help save his men from a situation where Germans had them pinned. He then took shrapnel to the chest days later and then got shot in the neck. All he lost in battle was his voice rather than his life. He led his men to victory and lived further another 51 years. Soldier number 8 on the list is a Finnish farmer, and I'm sorry if I butcher his name, Simo. Probably didn't seem like much of a threat to the Soviet Union when they invaded his country in 1939. Then again, they probably didn't know that he had already served a mandatory year of military service when he was younger. Or that he had an ingenious plan that didn't involve signing back up. Instead, he climbed into a tree with his rifle and a few cans of food in conditions that were between 20 and 40 degrees below zero. Then he sat and waited for Russians to come across the 6 feet deep of snow, and he took them out one by one. He wore a white outfit so that nobody could see him. Soon he was known as a special target to the Russian soldiers. They were referring to him as the White Death. The first task force that went after him, he gunned them all down. And then a team of counter-snipers were sent. He killed them all too. With an SMG alongside his rifle, he personally took out 705 enemy soldiers despite being hit with shrapnel and shot in the head with an exploding bullet. He lived, waking up in the hospital the very day the war had ended. What a badass. Wow. The next soldier on our list today is Mad Jack Churchill, which gives you a good understanding at what kind of guy he was. And I don't mean he was angry, but he was a little crazy. He was a commander in World War II who claimed that any officer should not go into battle without a sword. And he took that so seriously, he took a claymore into battle everywhere he went. In World War II, there's famous pictures of him carrying this sword. He signed up for commando duty, and one night he captured 42 Germans as well as a mortar squad with that same famous sword. Next, he was sent to take the German point 622. He did so happily, charging far ahead of the rest of his team, who all ended up being killed. To the same men, and throwing grenades left and right as he swung into action, and unfortunately at the end of this rampage, as without his team to back him up, he was eventually captured by the Germans. He did not seem fazed by that. He was playing the bagpipes he had always managed to carry with him as they approached. He was put into a concentration camp, but he escaped. After getting caught again, he escaped again. He walked 150 miles to try to get back to the war, only to find out when he finally got back that the war had ended. And he was disappointed by that news. The last soldier on our list today is probably the most famous one on the list, I think. He was basically, I don't know if he was the inspiration for Captain America, but in my eyes, he's basically Captain America that didn't need to become a superhero. We're talking about Audie Murphy here. He's one of the great facets of Captain America's story, you know. He's a weak, small guy in stature, you know, only 5'5" and 110 pounds. And, well, he joined the army in 1942. He was actually quickly promoted. Audie joined the army in 1942. He was quickly promoted, but also caught malaria, which he continued to suffer from at one stage. A German machine gun crew shot down Murphy's best friend, so he raged out and killed everyone in the machine gun's nest, as well as 2 more nests and some snipers that were nearby. Later, he was with 19 men and 2 tanks when they were attacked by the Germans, and the tanks were quickly crippled and set alight. Murphy wouldn't be beaten. He jumped into the flaming tanks and started firing. He just kept going until they ran out of bullets. He walked back to join his men right as the tank exploded behind him. He was given 33 medals. And then, not just that, he was so badass, they made a movie about him, and he played himself in the movie. And sadly, shortly after that movie, he filmed that movie. He died in a plane accident. Very tragic. But anyways, I hope you liked this video. Anyway, this was my video. My story about some of the most badass men that had ever lived. Hope you guys enjoyed it.